Hey everyone, Social Solipsist here for another episode of 52 and 52, and this week I'm taking a look at Gwent, the Witcher card game, as it is subtitled, which is a free-to-play collectible card game developed by CD Projekt Red and being distributed on PC, Xbox, and Xbox One and PS4, and I believe it's all supposed to be crossplay. Some of you may be familiar with this game for several reasons. One is that it shows up in The Witcher 3, which I will say I have not played, but am somewhat familiar with. I have played The Witcher 1 and a bit of The Witcher 2, and I love the series very much. And this trading card, or this collectible card game rather, it's not a trading card game, is not exactly up my alley, but it's free and it's The Witcher, and I figured I'd take a look at it, especially because it just dropped into open beta, I believe, 2 days ago as of this recording. It is available on all the platforms I previously mentioned, like I said. However, I believe they fixed it at this point. When I first tried to grab it on day one, I had a hell of a time trying to get the PC version. All of the links, even if you loaded up GOG Galaxy, even the links on there all sent you to install it on a console. So trying to get the PC version, trying to get access to the PC version at all was a nightmare. Even now, if you load up GOG Galaxy, it doesn't open the game directly. You click a link in GOG Galaxy, which sends you to a web page where you log in with your GOG account, where it downloads a standalone installer and an authentication file, which then reopens itself in GOG Galaxy. So it's a little bit of a mess. This may not be the case long term, but first trying to get it set up was a bit of a snafu. So aside from that, like I said, this isn't necessarily right up my alley, besides being in the Witcher universe, which I love very much. I did spend several $100s in the late 90s on Magic the Gathering, which I don't regret, but I also don't look back on too fondly. And I haven't in recent times been particularly interested in getting back into any sort of card games. I do think I did take a poke at Hearthstone very briefly, but it didn't really appeal to me in any particular way. However, I'll get into the mechanics and what's a bit different about this one, but I'll get to that in a minute. First and foremost, I think that this game looks great. All of the animations and stuff are really clean and smooth. All of the art assets look great. They're just classic, well-done art assets from this team. It's the same style art and all of that. All of the other outside visual aspects, both in the UI and in the game board and stuff, all look totally solid without being excessively busy nor boring to the eye. And on top of all that, it runs great on, I haven't run it on my laptop, but based on how lightly it ran on my desktop, I'd be pretty surprised if my laptop couldn't run it just as easily. So yeah, aside from that, music is great. There's voiced lines for a bunch of different stuff that are all recorded solidly. Yeah, I mean, it's all around just super solid. I understand that this has been in closed beta since I think October of 2016, so that's like a good 8 months that they've had to polish it, and that's after these guys don't tend to release anything even in beta that isn't in really good shape. So this has got to be the last very tiny polishes for this game. I will say I do have a little bit of a nagging issue with one of the UI aspects that I don't think you're going to see in this footage, which is that at any time, you might actually, I'm not sure, anytime it puts a bunch of cards in front of you in like, so that you can see the whole card, it wants you to scroll through them, and it doesn't give you a scroll bar or even arrows on the edges to show you to scroll. You have to click and drag this invisible scroll, and it's kind of unclear, and they never explain that that's like, even in the tutorial, they don't explain that that's how you navigate that UI. So for the first 10 minutes, I was just I only ever saw like the first anytime they showed that view, I only ever saw the first 4 cards because I didn't know I could scroll past, or I didn't know how to, rather, until I futzed around with it and figured it out. Yeah, so getting into the gameplay itself, or well, I guess I'll talk about the tutorial a little bit first. There are a ton of tutorials. They are super solid. The tooltips that pop up when you hover over any card to describe all of the, terminology and stuff, while kind of subtle, and I missed them at first and got a little confused, are all super solid and very well explained. There are a few abilities that, like deployment abilities, that don't quite make sense. Sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. I play a card and it has a deploy ability, and for some reason it doesn't go, and the game doesn't explain to me why. But it's such a small issue that I'm sure it's just me not understanding and not the game being broken or anything. So aside from that, the core gameplay is really what sets this apart for me, and why I didn't drop it, in 5 seconds. This is a game that is much less about building your biggest, strongest army and obliterating your opponent's army, and it is vastly more tactical, I would say, than any of the other trading card games or collectible card games I've ever seen. I won't go into explaining the whole core mechanics, but the gameplay is very focused on playing strategy in a variety of ways on the board. Both, spreading your units out and making sure they won't all get hit by a single thing or something like that. Lots of that kind of stuff. But in addition to all that, because you don't just play a single game, you play 3 rounds, and you can basically forfeit rounds if you see that you're being outplayed. I think that adds a huge amount to basically the tactics of the game, similar to a more classic tactical board game, like let's just say chess. Let's say chess or Go or something like that. There's a lot more of, here's how I'm going to play to my opponent and what they think I'm going to do and what they think my reaction will be, and then also being allowed to, forfeit rounds, forfeit pieces for the sake of a benefit in the following round, that sort of thing. And a lot of the abilities that I've run into just in my first 2 hours of playing really show that even the card abilities and things like that are very focused around what you can do, forfeiting around to power up your next. It's pretty darn well done. And I know I'm talking in kind of vagaries right now, but if I tried to explain all of it, it'd just be more confusing, to be perfectly honest, and this would drone on for way too long. So all in all, I've had a really solid time with this, certainly more than I ever expected to and ever have with any other card game on any video game card game, I should say. I don't know if long term I will get into this. It is free to play, and there are a lot of microtransactions, and obviously it's not pay to win. It is very much, you by playing you earn various types of rewards that you use to get more cards, and build decks and things like that. I don't have a whole lot of hesitation on that, especially because historically I've never seen CD Projekt Red do anything that was disrespectful to their audience. If anything, I think they're probably the most transparent and respectful game developer out there right now. I might be a little biased on that one, but purely from what they started out as a company, and they were basically a piracy company. And then the games that they've pumped out and the transparency they've shown historically, I think I'm not really worried about that, but I digress. What will probably hamper me getting into this is not wanting to get into it. Because I am sure that if I dedicated myself and my time to this, I'd really enjoy it. But the problem is that that's a level... This game, and like most trading card games, or collectible card games, I think, requires a level of dedication and learning of every single card and deck building and all these other things that take up an immense amount of time. And I totally respect anyone who does that. But as much as I think I'd personally even like that, I don't know that that's something I want to spend my time on. That said, I'm going to keep picking away at it and see how much I enjoy it in the long term. But I am, at least in the short term, going to avoid time to sit down and play 6 hours of Gwent. Because to some extent, I think that's what these games require a little bit. Learning the interplay between every single card is just not something I have time for right now. So anyway, to wrap up, had a good time with it. We'll definitely play more. I will leave a link in the description that I believe should be the fastest way to get you into the game at this point. Like I said, the links were a little bit broken, but I think the big yellow button on the page in the link in the description should get you straight in the easiest way possible. You will need a GOG account if you don't already have one. But I recommend it if that's your thing. Anyway, I've been the Social Solipsist. Thank you guys all for watching 52 and 52 once again, and I will see you guys next time.
Not much left of that world.